Hello, welcome to Bo Knows Health, joined by my Jordan Wild. He's a wild man. Tell us about the name. Where's that name from?
Yeah, wild man.
The Wild last name. It's not a normal last name.
Yeah. Parents, dad, his parents Canada originally, but yeah, a little bit of Swedish, Dutch in me as well. So
Nice.
yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Super happy to be here. My PT and strength coach and all the things. So excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
So we're talking Jordan here. It's a little hard to tell. If I sit in the chair, you can see he's a lot taller than me. I'm trying to lean forward for that sake, but yes, Jordan is a former professional basketball player, right? Tell us a little bit about your journey there.
Yeah. So backtrack a little bit farther. I grew up playing multiple sports, 3 sports in high school. Was fortunate to get college opportunities to play in all 3 sports. Wasn't sure my senior year what sport I was going to play, and I felt like basketball had the biggest upside. The sport I spent the least amount of time with and was pretty successful in, so I stuck with basketball. Went to Fresno Pacific, a small NAIA school, and then got to play overseas for 7 contracts. And back then, like now, it's really common. Division III NAIA guys, the lower level, there's opportunity to play overseas. But when I was playing overseas, there was really no NAIA guys. It was really all D1 players. So the game of basketball has expanded a great deal. But I was really fortunate to have gotten to play overseas and then gotten to coaching, and have been coaching the last 10 years. So high school, AAU, and NAIA, Division II college. So yeah, that's a little bit more about my journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry, which countries were you at again?
I was in Australia.
Yeah.
And Germany.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to play in France, Indonesia. I've played in a number of different places, basketball. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
And so when we connected, Jordan's like, yeah, just moved here, right? Drove quite a few hours.
Yeah.
So saying, I got some aches and pains.
Mm-hmm.
You're a PT. Let's talk. Let's see if we can get me feeling a little better. And it sounded like as we talked, I wanted to give you kudos to the fact that, again, as a professional athlete, you sound like you took care of your body better than most. You're very aware of like foot mechanics and things like that. And tell us a little bit about how that kept you in the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm really fortunate. I didn't have any significant major injuries. Obviously, just playing a lot of sports, and I had some concussions and stuff like that. But in terms of my basketball career, never had any, season-ending knees, ankles. Ankles are kind of always getting rolled up and stuff like that, but nothing significant to where. So yeah, I'm really thankful for that. And really, like I was just an athlete really in college, like I did the necessary things. But when I got to go play overseas, I got to really discover, and I was really trying to master a lot of different areas of what is best practices, whether it was, strength and conditioning, nutrition, basketball, mindset. It was just like all these different things that really prepared me to really, I feel like, be a really good coach for different athletes and to kind of meet them where they were at because I have experienced a number of different things being a professional athlete, the doubts, the fatigue, all those different things, sleep. And I remember that was a big one because what year was it? It had to have been in like 2015 when guys started to get sleep chambers. NBA players started to get sleep chambers in their house.
Yeah.
And so then I just did a huge deep dive on sleep and recovery and what that meant. And so then I ended up having, my whole clock pretty dialed in terms of like I was sleeping 10 hours a night, and then I was still getting an hour nap. So like just different experiences like that kind of helped me get those experiences that were tangible to my life and my professional career. That then translated to helping other athletes out as well.
Yeah, they say LeBron James sleeps 12 hours a night, I think. That's always been the rumor. Word on the street.
Yeah.
LeBron, tell us, is that true? But so it sounds like, again, now transitioning to coaching, the business of basketball is a term we're using here as somebody moving into that space. Tell us a little bit about what that's looking like and what that how folks can take away from that.
Yeah. Well, just naturally, just friendships, whether played overseas with teammates or played in college, and then and in the coaching realm, family, friends. My wife was very successful in basketball as well, and so she has a great network in coaching and played at University of Oregon, WNBA. So yeah, just the
Go
business
Ducks.
the business of basketball for the Wilds is just kind of a family deal. So we've been able to help out a number of athletes across the board, whether it's been in the transfer portal, leaving Division II, going Division I, and kind of dealing in that NIL space for the first time, or kind of going low major to high major Division I. And so that the NIL market and some of that stuff, helping athletes, guiding athletes and families, and then the recruitment process from high school. Now that athletes, colleges and universities are less and less recruiting the high school athlete, so helping them navigate that, families. And then we've been doing that. We moved to Colorado without a coaching job necessarily. Yes, the Rockies.
That's not the Rockies.
Oh well, we're here, like the Rockies.
The Flatirons.
The Flatirons.
Flatirons. But yes.
So
he's really new here.
Yeah. So yeah, just more of a family move, and knew this was a good change of pace for us, and so excited to be here and helping started our website, Lily Wild, and it's the business of basketball, and we've been helping athletes kind of hit the ground running with meeting folks, and kind of already have a kind of a spread of athletes around the country that we've already been helping and advising for a number of years now. So happy to get it going.
Awesome. So yeah, basketball obviously very physically demanding. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with your experience, your wife's experience of the investing in your body. And again, you kind of alluded to it, but love to hear a little more on again, our assessment that we did here. Took Jordan through a good amount of our normal assessment of my business. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you're thinking of in that investment in the body.
Yeah. I think it's, well, just overall, in large part, I think it's very underestimated from the parent standpoint. I think it's kind of an afterthought. It's not kind of in conjunction with training or AAU scene, travel ball, and so I don't think it's as common. I think they're spending a lot of money in travel ball. And then if their high school program is doing a fall league, then they're charging oftentimes for that too. And then they're trying to do private trainings. And then often the physical aspect is kind of neglected.
Yeah.
So I think even just a base level and working with you and understanding the body, I'm not a doctor like Bo. But I know well enough to know whether structurally, whether they're jumping or moving, and where their feet are, and then based on how their knees moving from there, where they're bending. So some of those little tactical things that I have an understanding of, but that's where working with you is going to be really beneficial to then be able to help athletes and then kind of joint work on different people and kind of help best guide them. Whether it's resistance, training to build up some strength so that their body can start moving, or whether it's, kind of how that translates into their sport specifically.
And this is my opportunity to say, I'm still blown away that there's still a belief, and you can reinforce or tell me if you think it's any different, but that a lot of parents still believe weightlifting is still possibly hazardous and can stunt the growth of the youth. There's been no evidence to ever support this. There's so many benefits to starting weightlifting. Obviously, progress it safely, but injury risk is incredibly low when it comes to strength training, resistance training, and it's something that empowers the youth, especially the youth, let alone as a supplement to professional athletes. The higher up you go, the older we get, the more it should be part of that process. But I'm still blown away. I work with a lot of parents here in the area. They're like, hey, my kid hurt his back. He's playing high school. I had a high school football player last weekend that had some back injuries, and I said, okay, well, let's do an assessment. And it was everything I expect to find, like not able to turn on the glutes, not able to turn on the core properly, overworking bigger muscles, not using the smaller muscles, all this kind of fancy jargon. But point being, I think there should be some kind of better system. Again, I would throw this out there now, and you tell me if you're starting to work with a basketball team, I would put down, a certain amount of money. We're not gambling, but that's not allowed. That if I can get a full off season with a team and say, especially based on my understanding of the strength and conditioning around here, the way that these athletes are presenting, I'm saying, hey, if we can address these things, your performance is going to improve significantly compared to other teams. If we focus on recovery, if we focus on the strength training stuff, you're going to have such better agility, a much better ability to jump, to have less fatigue, all these little things. And it's all simple stuff. And literally my prescription for this athlete, 14-year-old high school running back, was do 5 minutes of these. I gave him like 5 or 6 different things to mix in every morning. 5 minutes. That's all I said. 5 to 10 minutes if you want. And start addressing these things. It's like saying, coming in, hey, you look a little unhealthy. Let's get you some multivitamins. Let's get you some salads. Let's get you some broccoli. We're just trying to get that going. So yeah, again, I'll step off my little soapbox here of that. But again, I think there's a huge opportunity for those listening. And I'm excited to see where your business goes and where I can certainly help out with the orthopedic, the musculoskeletal side of that. Because again, injuries are the worst. That's why I got into what I want to do. I always wanted to be around sports. And so I said, hey, like losing time over something like rolling an ankle or something like that can very much be avoided. So here we are. So yeah, that's my little rant on that.
See, the strength conditioning coach was going viral. His son was lifting with the football team and he had his PR. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I gotta send it to you. Yeah, my son's a year and a half now. I already got him lifting. So you know, we're squatting and teaching him to hang clean.
There you go. That's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, all jokes aside, I think that and we've seen it historically too. You look at countries like Russia and China where they have a whole sports program outside of the doping and whatever, but they still introduce the youth and spring them up into seeing how they develop, and they're taking a pool of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids, but they're exposing them to gymnastics, to weightlifting, to running, to all these different things, and then they see who develops into what and say, okay, you look like you're going to be a good basketball player. As we see Jordan being very tall there, that would have been an easy pick there. But yeah, again, developing that skill set to say, okay, like you're clearly this, and we're going to start developing you from the age of 6 to be that. Again, we do see that's the other extreme of it though too, of the youth sports, and I see on the orthopedic side as well, parents going too far and saying, oh, you're going to be a baseball pitcher at the age of 6, and like I'm just going to start making you pitch. But yeah, specialization. How do you feel about specialization? In that youth sport?
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up in that world. It's kind of interesting that Taylor grew up specializing in basketball, and then I didn't, obviously. So yeah, I'm not a proponent of specialization. I think there's different seasons and times of when it's okay, you can give a little bit more attention. But I think if we're trying to grow complete players or athletes, like well-rounded athletes, then I think we're really covering each aspect of rest, recovery, and not just this sport all the time, because the burnout is the coincide with that specialization conversation and the numbers of the burnout and kids losing interest in their specific sport that they were doing from 3rd grade, and then all of a sudden they get to high school and they're like, I don't even care about this sport anymore, I don't want to do it. So that one's a hard one to balance. And I think it comes back to really like this idea of just like sports, parents and sports. I think parents end up driving the bus too regularly, and it's all out of love. It's not but they're also getting something else out of it, whether it's some of that
reliving their glory days,
some of that just like
their lost youth,
comfort or admiration. Their value is tied up in kind of how their kid performs or through that sport. And so, yeah, it's just, I think then that's when it gets a little bit unhealthy. And then all of a sudden that athlete, those car ride homes, are not fun for those athletes, and getting asked a million questions or getting ripped about their performance ends up being a burnout for that athlete. So I think there's aspects on that too with healthy family. Good morning. with healthy families and healthy parents with kids in sports. So I think early on, as much as you can play multiple sports and develop multiple skill sets, is what I would tend to. Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about Steve Nash before. We talked about him.
We haven't.
But you know his story a little bit.
I do a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the book Range, David Epstein. You're familiar with that book as well?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So great book. Recommend it, especially if you're a parent out there. But yeah, he talks about the example of Steve Nash being the almost extreme. Grew up in Canada, I believe, and he did not touch a basketball until he was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
And he just played all sorts of different sports. And he gives the extreme other examples. Tiger Woods, being on, was it Johnny Carson at like 2 years old, putting and things like that. And then there's a tennis players. Was it Djokovic that, or was it Nadal? One of the big tennis guys that, I think had the tennis racket from like, again, 2 or 3 years old. So anyway, point being that having a well-rounded athlete, again, tends to avoid all these psychological aspects of it, but also orthopedically and even for performance. I think someone like Steve Nash is a great example of developing an overall athletic skill set that allows you to then take that and put it into any sport you want.
Yeah.
That to me, again, comes back to those movement vital signs. Yeah, how well can you stand on one leg? Again, I see a lot of these athletes, and I think when folks and parents are chasing these extreme high performance things and trying to get scholarships or what have you, sometimes they're what's the saying, foregoing the forest for the trees or whatever that saying. But they're going past the point of saying, okay, like, and I can see this, and same thing you were alluding to, again, as a coach, we want to develop this so that we can give everybody the skill set of saying, I can see that young lady on the soccer pitch is she's running like we jokingly say, like Bambi. Her legs are kind of all over the place, and then when she makes a cut, much more likely to tear an ACL. That's a very costly procedure. That's going to be, again, all sorts of ramifications down the line. So we want to be able to develop that skill set and say, hey, can we screen better for this stuff? The systems, I think, are not very well in place, and is investing $200 to see a specialist and get a better screening, because again, right now for youth athletes, and I don't want to just go to the youth sports. So if you want to move the conversation away from that, we can go wherever it goes. But but right now you just need to get a physical, right? And a lot of times that almost I know chiropractors can do a physical. I've heard some horror stories of what a physical entails, of kind of like, do you have a hernia? Are you breathing? Let's look at your blood pressure and things like that, and not really the ability to say, hey, when you're squatting, I'm seeing, a butt wink, or your left side is doing this and your right side is doing that. And so do we need to go down that granular path? Not always. But can some of those certainly improve that? And again, it's going to come down to the parent, I think, investing some funds and going that extra mile to say, oh, I don't want my kid to get hurt. And again, I'm still confident that these are the things that, and again, Jordan, now, I don't know if you want to tell everyone your desire to be on the Masters, Golf Masters.
Oh yeah, senior tour.
Senior tour,
yeah,
exactly.
Talk about golf.
Senior, yes. I don't know. I feel like senior is such a crazy term to use there.
I know, a long way to go, but yeah, no, my whole thing was I was going to become a scratch golfer and get my game back. I wanted to get my body healthy first, so that's why we had a number of sessions before I got back into it. So, keeping my body healthy as the primary. My mind was always there. My confidence is here, and my competence is down here for golf. So that's the deal. But I wanted to get my body, prepared and back in that level of condition and shape and functional to then be able to get to there, because get my competency and the skill set to match my confidence, my body. So yeah, now we're fully rolling, and the index is dropping more and more on a daily basis. So
yeah, and
golf is not a perfect game. Lotto. No, who wrote that book? But I'm reading that too. So my mental
Okay.
game is going there now too. So yeah, we're getting it down.
Yeah. But yeah, again, from an orthopedic standpoint, trying to look
You asked
at,
about golf.
yeah. No, I'm saying for golf specifically, and for you,
Yeah.
the same concept of balancing out injury prevention, because it's such a unilateral sport, and even something like basketball. Again, you mentioned ankles being a big problem with basketball, but again, so let's talk to somebody considering basketball. What would be your sales pitch, or warning for somebody going into basketball of, again, I'm 5'8". I probably would never have made it in basketball. We can use the Spud Webb examples of the world and Muggsy Bogues, but outside of that, what would be your sales pitch out if you have a kid who's thinking about it? Youth sports, obviously, could be fun in the middle school age, but as you go more into high school and college, obviously, you got to be pretty committed to it. So, what would be your sales pitch and/or warnings in that regard?
Yeah. Well, I think it all depends on kind of like that like you said, that timing. I think it's just like probably you could experience in terms of in your field, the different levels of understanding and where people are at or where the climate is based on your 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 field of work. And so I think that's who parents are choosing to allow their kid to train with, to learn from, is really, really important. Regardless of me or not, it's just more about a real assessment of what kind of reinforcement they're giving. Like, I'm not just going to let my daughter go to any school, right? Like, I want to know the teacher. I'm going to do a background check on the climate of that school. The same thing is true in coaching and in sports. I have a background in terms of playing professionally and playing college, and a lot of people do. But then, how are the skills and tactical and technical things of basketball getting implemented, and really, like, how are we communicating? And how's that coach communicating to their kids? So, I think it's really important. I don't think in terms of the landscape, they just it's kind of, if you have a little bit of a resume, then go for it. In terms of training and stuff, when it's very few and far between, like, good coaching and good training for skills that will last for a number of years. And so for us, yeah, no matter what age group we have worked with kids, we want to build a plan that's going to be able to sustain them for a number of years. So if we're correcting something or teaching them something new, that would have a long-term view of what's going to benefit that athlete. Not necessarily now. And I think in youth sports, it's hard, whether it's AAU or travel ball, different sports. It becomes a win now mentality, and there's not a long game and so there's oftentimes shortcuts or bad techniques. You see kids chucking the ball up from their hip and doing different things where it's like, that's not going to sustain them.
Yeah.
When they get another growth spurt or when they continue to develop. And so there are things you can do, and ways you can teach them to help them move functionally in their sport that will help them long term. And so I think that's been our approach, and not necessarily about the results now, but how do we build a plan to help you for a long time? The information we give you, how's this going to be able to help you for a long time? I always use golf because, it's like people spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to get a golf lesson. Well, then the golfer, the teacher is not with them on the course. They got to figure out how to manage, how to self-correct, how to give themselves the mental cues to remind themselves of what they need to be focused on in that given shot. And so with that approach, I've always tried to coach and teach with that approach of, you have to own this process, and I'm going to give you cues, I'm going to give you things, but then if you are able to accept it and own it, the quicker the better, then that's going to benefit you more long term as an athlete. So
yeah, and the term for that we use in the strength and conditioning world is long-term athlete development, especially in this youth aspect of it that we're talking about. But I think it applies throughout the lifespan, even for someone trying to be a senior golfer. But yeah, long-term athlete development, again, looking at the skill set, looking at how they all transfer over. And again, I think of some of the examples of a guy like Derrick Rose, for anyone familiar, they were saying he could have been better than Jordan, and the talent level was there, and but the injuries just caught up to him. And again, that's where, again, understanding how to is it possible to avoid all injuries? Absolutely not. But we can certainly mitigate certain things. Even Halliburton, who tore his Achilles or ACL. Yeah. He tore his Achilles in the finals. We had 4 Achilles tears in the NBA playoffs this past year.
Yeah, and I think it was the most in NBA history.
Yeah.
So what would you say to why that is now?
A lot of people ask me that question, so I have a little bit of a head start on this question, I guess. But a lot of people are talking about it. I do think a lot. We're seeing load management. We're seeing show them your shoes. Kick your shoes up, of course. Yeah. So super duper cushiony shoes can actually make the feet a little bit weaker. Yeah. Stylish, sure, but you look back at the '80s and Jordan versus Bird, and they're playing in these like Converse, almost flat shoes, and just enough support that they're not getting blisters, but the body's able to work the way it needs to work. So as we move towards load management, we're seeing a lot of, was it Kawhi that was doing a lot, like he was really like extreme on the load management, to the extent where fans are going to games and they're like, I want to see the superstar play like Kawhi, and he's not playing. And I paid X amount of money to see this, and the 2 biggest stars are not even playing from both teams. So like, what are we even doing here? Yeah. So I think that's the easy answer is load management, getting too comfortable with the way we're playing, and then then obviously again, strength and conditioning. There was an extreme example actually with Halliburton where he had an off-season video, so it was an interesting thing where you could see him doing barefoot training actually, and you could see how his feet are doing things. And one strength and conditioning coach, Joel Seedman, who is very extreme in his views, and I definitely don't agree with everything he says. He has some interesting stuff, but he was pointing out like look at the 7 ways that he's not activating this muscle and things like that. And so you can definitely go down that granular route. But coming back to maybe bring some sense to all this is it's hard to know, again, diet, nutrition, all recovery, all these things. It's hard to know, again, let's take Halliburton as an example of that. It's hard to know all of the factors that go into his thing. But yeah, for 4 made like superstars to tear their Achilles in one playoff, NBA playoff, is definitely unheard of. Yeah. And there's definitely something going on that either the NBA should look at, or strength and conditioning coaches should look at, and each individual athlete, I think, needs to take it upon themselves to say, what can I do to avoid this? I'm a 41-year-old athletic person who does not want to tear their Achilles, and so I'm doing everything I can to keep my Achilles as strong as possible. It's something I get a lot of people with those kind of complaints, with the aging athlete especially, of I'm starting to feel some tightness around my calf, things like that. So there's a lot of things we can look at. Again, basic strengthening, introducing some drills that hopefully start to get you less likely to have those injuries. So it's a good question.
And there's been a number of people that have come out and said, due to the specialization and amount of games over the course of not just their NBA career, but dating back to high school, college, and now NBA, of like not being a well-rounded, complete athlete, and yet they're the cream of the crop. And so I've seen strength and conditioning guys do more and more, on turf, doing football routes and getting creative with creating more, lateral movement stuff that they're doing that's not just on the hard surface, on the hardwood, in the same shoes and going.
The term cross training seems to have gone by the wayside, I think, a little bit, and that was popular in the 90s. There were literally a lot of sneakers were called cross trainers. CrossFit kind of came from that. I think that people don't even think about that. CrossFit is let's change up how we're doing things, but this let's look across the platform of athletic possibilities. So it's a good concept that I had Rhett Larson, who's worked with a lot of national teams. He seems to work with a lot of female volleyball. He was recently with Germany or China. But his whole thing is #NoZombies, because, again, when you come in there, you're like, okay, we're going through our same warm up. So he's coming up with all these unique warm ups, and I saw a fun one they were doing, like they had a hula hoop and they're rolling the hula hoop down, and the team has to run and like get it under their legs and then kind of lateral and things like that. So a lot of fun stuff. Check out his channel, check out our episode we did. But again, coming back to that whole concept of, again, having a well-rounded athlete, I think that's the underlying theme that we keep coming back to. I want to ask you mentioned NIL. So for anyone who's not familiar, name, image, and likeness in the college game. I think it's most publicized, I think, in football, gets the most press, at least from my worldview. But in the college space, how do you feel like that's impacting kids? And we mentioned the business of basketball for kids to be aware of this. The NIL seems to be definitely an interesting aspect for these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids to be dealing with millions of dollars. How are we seeing that in basketball? Do you think it's helping the sport?
Yeah, it's totally changed. The landscape has totally flipped. It doesn't feel amateurism anymore in terms of that regard. But yeah, if you look at the market share of the revenue, it's 40% football, 20% basketball, and then the rest of the sports get everything else in terms of that. So that's kind of how the pie's broken up a little bit with revenue sharing. But yeah, it's crazy. It's been changing every year. It feels like it's different each year in terms of the market value based on different positions. And then there's no, you hear this cry for help from the major coaches, the biggest coaches in the game, saying there needs to be some structure. There needs to be some structure. And they have a lot of money to be able to pay athletes and are at the top, and they're still saying that. Because there are still the Kansas and the Dukes who have endless, bankroll to where they can be able to pay athletes anywhere. And so then their competitive advantage is different. But it still changes that environment. It's because it's now what am I worth, and now it's about getting money. So I'm not against athletes getting paid. I think they should. I do think there's a level of consistency to it. That will help athletes just as much as it will help coaches, and then the whole in terms of the NCAA. But it's always, athletes have been getting paid since the 80s, 90s. It was just
under the table
and underground, and nobody knew about it. It's like about it, but nobody knew exactly what details. So now they're getting paid. So and it's public information, and so it's hard to know because on an NBA contract or a max contract, an agent will be lucky to get 3% of a max contract, and so those same agents are coming down now and trying to take 30% from college athletes. And so there's just this balance of like that's a little bit extreme in terms of what you're actually negotiating versus what that athlete's market value is based on some tangible numbers and some things in terms of how we kind of can scale it and know information. So there's a lot of information that's out there. Everybody loves to talk about how much they're getting paid and what's going on. But it's been interesting from the coaching, getting information from the coaching aspect to then the player aspect, and okay, what's the real number here, or what's the real value here, and based on how much people are spending, and kind of how they're managing their budget in terms of where their money's going. And so, I think coaches are more so, programs are more so looking at a price point per position, and then being able to build out. Now we have this allotment for a backup center, and our price point for our starting center is this. So then now there's a little bit more of depth. I think people went all in on the best players and overspent in the first couple of years. And so then when they did face injuries, a Kentucky, for example, they didn't quite have the depth that they wanted in Mark Pope's first year, where now it's like, okay, now their depth is different. And so they invested a little bit. So now they're taking an NBA model of, salary cap and knowing, okay, this amount per this position. And then now they tier it from their backups. And so, so it seems like people are naturally doing that more and more. But early on, it was just a crapshoot and get the best players possible, whatever amount of money it takes, and then not build a roster. So it's been good to learn about it, and to obviously be able to be influential in helping athletes navigate it and how to leverage it. It's the same kind of deal in terms of a high school kid trying to get to a college. and
Beauty
play.
being outside.
Yeah, you have to kind of leverage the interest that you have and how you kind of leverage that and continue to grow the interest to give yourself as many options as possible, but then ultimately go where you're loved.
Go where you're loved. I like that's a great place to leave it off. So yeah, we're gonna cut it for time a little bit here. As the sun comes up in beautiful Colorado. Jordan Wild, tell us where best place to connect with you.
Yeah, social media, lilywild.org, lilywild.com.
How do you spell that? We'll have it in the show notes. But...
Yeah, LILLEYWILD.
Nice.
Yeah, that's our website. It kind of gives you the business of basketball and kind of our information, bios, and stuff about what we're doing and how we're helping athletes in this season. And and then obviously, social media, Coach J Wild.
All right, guys, go check him out. I hope you got at least 1% better today. I know I did, as I do with every talk. I know a little bit more about the basketball world. Hopefully you guys do too. And again, youth sports, huge topic. Would love to revisit how your golf journey's going, how the basketball world's going. And hopefully folks are reaching out to Jordan Wild, Lily Wild. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.